I arrived home to the sudden flash of red and blue lights painting my driveway at 8:03 p.m., heart pounding as I parked and stepped onto the path, eyes narrowing at the sight of two sheriff's cruisers idling beside my front porch. My wife stood by the railing, cheeks flushed and voice shaking as she greeted me. "Karen called the cops, says we're trespassing on HOA property." Fury and confusion roared in me. We had explicitly opted out of that archaic HOA 2 years ago. I took a deep breath, raising my phone camera to record. "Hey neighbors." Live from 415 Birchwood Circle, HOA Karen just summoned law enforcement after we declined to rejoin. Let's see how this unfolds. The live chat ignited instantly. "Not again." "She never learns." The deputies emerged, badges glinting. Deputy Lawrence approached, polite but firm. "We got a call about suspicious activity. Can someone explain?" Karen, immaculate in her designer polo, materialized at the corner of the porch, clipboard clutched like armor. She proclaimed, voice crystalline with self-satisfaction, "I filed a complaint for trespass. Your property lines extend only to the white picket fence. Anything beyond is the HOA's communal area." I glanced at the unmarked fence and then at my deeded property map, stored on my tablet. "Karen, we volunteered to maintain that strip outside the fence and paid twice for the land tax. Here's the deed." I tapped the file and swiped to the scanned document. Evidence of our exclusive ownership extending 10 feet past the fence. The deputies leaned in, reviewing the deed. Karen's lips quivered, but she tried to stand her ground, insisting her homeowner's agreement still bound us. Deputy Lawrence, voice steady, said, "Ma'am, without a valid HOA covenant recorded in county archives, there's no enforceable communal zone. This call appears unfounded." Relief and adrenaline flooded me, but I sensed this confrontation needed a decisive twist to end her reign. "Karen," I said calmly, eyeing her clipboard, "since you're so keen on official files, perhaps you'd like to revisit some of your husband's records?" Her eyebrows rose in shock as I tapped my phone and switched to a browser window showing a cached FBI file retrieval page. "Your husband's background check from 2012 is publicly archived. FBI Special Agent John Whitman. His clearance status, internal case assignments, and disciplinary reviews are still on file online." Karen's color drained. She set the clipboard down gingerly. The deputies behind me straightened, scanning her face. She stammered, "That's private classified." I angled the live camera toward the deputies. "Actually, under FOIA, older non-sensitive agent profiles are declassified. If you recall, his name appeared in at least 3 publicly released case summaries." Comments erupted. FBI chaos. Karen exposed. Flushed with humiliation, she tried to snatch my phone but stopped short when one deputy placed a hand on her arm. She gasped as the cold metal badge glinted under the porch light. I pressed on, soothing but unyielding. "Karen, you overstepped by weaponizing police calls. Now, we can let this go if you publicly retract your complaint and apologize, or I forward this live stream to the Internal Affairs Division that oversees misuse of public resources." Karen's knees buckled as she backed away, tears welling. Deputy Lawrence dialed his radio and said quietly, "Looks like no charges today. We closing the call." In the stunned hush, I turned to my live audience. Entitlement met accountability tonight. Share your thoughts. Did we expose Karen too harshly? Or is public transparency the only deterrent? As the deputies departed, their cruisers' lights fading into the night, neighbors emerged from their homes, filing onto the lawn with a mixture of concern and awe. Mrs. Patel approached me, phone still recording, her brow furrowed. "What can we do to make sure Karen can't misuse this again?" I gestured toward the fallen clipboard now lying by the mailbox, pages fluttering in the breeze. "We need transparency and oversight. Let's draft new community guidelines that require any HOA officer to submit public incident reports and undergo regular audits." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering crowd. Over the following days, I convened meetings at my home, using my living room as an impromptu council chamber. Neighbors, engineers, teachers, small business owners gathered around a long table, laptops open, brainstorming accountability measures. Jackson, the surveyor, volunteered to map out precise property boundaries accessible to all, while Ms. Alvarez, a legal assistant, offered to draft bylaws mandating dual sign-off on any official HOA action, one by the president, another by an independent board member. Comments and suggestions streamed into our shared digital document late into the night. Meanwhile, the HOA board faced turmoil. Rumors circulated that Karen's husband, FBI Special Agent John Whitman, had quietly intervened behind the scenes contacting county officials, leveraging his network to shield his wife from immediate repercussions. But local journalists discovered no evidence of undue influence, and internal inquiries found no protocol violations on his part. Instead, they revealed that his official file contained commendations for integrity and transparency, ironies not lost on the community as Karen's abuse of authority contrasted sharply with his professional ethos. As tensions simmered, a twist emerged when a retired judge, Mr. Bennett, knocked on my door and requested to join our reform committee. He had observed Karen's distressing calls to police over minor infractions and worried that unchecked HOA power threatened due process. Drawing on decades of judicial experience, he proposed a conflict resolution clause. Any complaint triggering law enforcement must first pass through a mediation step, with both parties present and evidence reviewed by a neutral mediator. The proposal earned unanimous support, its inclusion widely celebrated as a safeguard against malicious enforcement. Within 2 weeks, our collective effort yielded a comprehensive community charter. We printed copies and delivered them door to door. Clear definitions of homeowner and HOA officer roles, mandatory evidence for complaints, formal mediation before citations, public annual audits, and a mandatory civics workshop for new HOA board members. A feedback portal allowed residents to suggest improvements and report concerns anonymously. For the first time in years, the HOA felt like ours again, a shared enterprise rather than a hidden bureaucracy. Karen, meanwhile, prepared a written apology, published on the HOA's new website alongside her husband's supportive statement, a call for accountability and healing. She acknowledged her misuse of police resources and pledged to step down as president until she completed civilian oversight training. The community watched closely as she earned certification in fair governance, a process she documented with humility and transparency. Spring arrived with a renewal election for HOA leadership. I declined to run, endorsing instead a ticket of neighbors committed to our charter's principles. Ms. Patel as president, Mr. Jackson as secretary, and Ms. Alvarez as treasurer. The ballot tallies showed overwhelming support, over 90% turnout, and a healthy majority for reform-minded candidates. To commemorate our victory, we organized a community picnic on the very lawn where Karen once summoned deputies. Tables laden with homemade dishes circled a central stage where local musicians played, children chased bubbles, and Titan, now equipped with a community watch vest, greeted guests. I stood at the mic, looking out over the crowd, and said, "Tonight we celebrate not just the outcome, but the process, dialogue over dictation, evidence over ego. May these principles guide us always." Applause rang out, carrying into the twilight. In the months that followed, our community became a beacon for neighborly governance. Elmwood Drive hosted workshops for nearby towns, sharing our charter, our arbitration framework, and our digital tools. I traveled to neighboring counties, speaking at civic forums about the perils of unchecked local authority and the power of citizen-driven reform. Each story echoed back home as neighbors continued to refine our processes, keeping the charter alive with periodic reviews and community surveys. And as summer waned, I found myself back at my front porch one evening, Titan asleep at my feet. Looking up at the sky, stars scattering like data points on a vast map, I felt a swell of gratitude. We had turned Karen's misuse of power into an opportunity for deeper connection, renewed trust, and systemic change. And as our community thrived, the memory of red and blue lights on 415 Birchwood Circle became a distant echo, no longer a source of fear, but a catalyst for progress and unity.